training on time management. So it's not going to be a super long training. I think a lot of these tips that I'm going to share with you are pretty practical. They're pretty common, but I think it's great to get a refresher just in case. There are a few tips in here that I never knew about. Hold on, my camera thing is all goofy. All right, there we go. So I wanted to share them with you, and I hope you can find some helpful. Whoop, nope, there we go. My computer's cursed this morning, apparently, so I apologize. But anyway, so I hope you can find some good tips through this resource. And if there's anything that you missed that you wanted to go back on, these trainings are recorded and they are shared to our website, alabamarespite.org, and also our YouTube channel, just Alabama Respite, or Alabama Lifespan Respite on YouTube. And so you can pick up that training or watch this again if you'd like to, or share it with your friends. Before we get started, though, if you would like to participate in the post survey, please put your email in the chat box so that I can send you the post survey after our time together today. And of course, this is an option for you. It's not mandatory by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a way for me to get your feedback on whether the information was helpful, if it was useful, if it was trash, whatever. So I know that I am serving you as best as I can and meeting those needs for you. And of course, that's always an opportunity for you to share with me future topics that you would like me to cover, or if there's anything that I've gone over in the past that you would like me to do a deeper dive on, I'm more than happy to do that. So if you'd like to participate in that survey, I would really appreciate it. Just put your email address in the chat box and I will send that to you once our time is over today. So time management, it's going to be pretty straightforward. I've only got about 10 slides. And afterwards, if you would like, we can share some tips and tricks that maybe have worked for you. I think learning from one another is probably our best resource when it comes to these kinds of things. So if you have any tips or any tricks that you want to share with us, there'll be time at the end to do that, okay? So let's go ahead and hop right into it. The first tip I have for you, which I think is a great way to get started whenever we are trying a new hobby or trying to create a new habit, is just take an inventory, right, of what are we doing during the day. And so that's what a time audit is. It's just a way for us to be more effective in our time management by knowing where we spend our time. What are we doing during the time and during the hours of the day? So understanding how we currently spend our time is one of our best and most effective time management skills. So conducting a time audit, either manually or just using a time tracking app, which there's plenty of them out there available to you, is a great way to just get started. Okay, so it's just really identifying where most of your time is spent and if you need to modify certain behaviors for time management. I know when I was full-time momming at home and I had a bunch of littles with me and I felt like I was always busy, but I got absolutely nothing done, which I still feel that way sometimes. Doing a time audit was very useful for me because then I could see, you know, where could I carve out some extra time, not only for maintaining the home and the tasks that I was responsible for, but where could I carve out time for myself, right? I felt like I never had time for myself because I was always doing. But creating a time audit allowed me to realize where I was wasting my time, where I was putting my energy that wasn't really serving me or my family. And so this could be a great way for you to kickstart your time management. So the first step is to write down your goals for the week. And we'll go into a little bit more later on about how you can start prioritizing your tasks. So set your goals for the week, just writing them down or putting them in the app that you have. And that'll help you set your realistic goals, right? And get a to-do list set up. So you can use apps or just writing it down. What are you doing during the day? How much time you're spending on it, and that kind of thing. Tracking your time accurately. So that's step 2. So really be honest with yourself. How much time are you spending on things? Set a timer when you start working. If you're doing this manually, set a timer like, okay, I'm going to set a timer, then I'm going to do some laundry. Okay, how long did it take you to do laundry? I'm going to set a timer and I'm going to go run some errands. How long did it take you to run those errands? Okay, but just make sure you do it when you start, and then when you stop, don't put it off for later because then you could just kind of forget what you did or even how long you spent, and then it kind of defeats the purpose. The next step is to analyze your time usage. So now that you have a record of your day, it's a good way for you to recognize patterns, right? Where are you most productive? When are you most productive? Excuse me. And where are you wasting time? And that'll help you to create better schedules, daily schedules for you and your loved one. So an example would be if you find that you spent 3 hours online, right, scrolling social media or on Pinterest or whatever, and you did that instead of the more or urgent work that you had to do, just take note of this, okay? Prioritize your task based on deadlines or how they're going to affect other people, right? There are some things that are urgent that you have to get to right away, like maybe you have a loved one that needs your assistance with toileting or bathing, just daily care tasks. Obviously, those are going to be urgent. You're going to have to prioritize those. But then there are some things that you can kind of set off to the side for a later time, and just really just kind of really just getting a clear understanding of what you're doing with your time during the day. Make sure you take note of what tasks can be delegated, right? If you have people in your space that can help you, what can you kind of pass off to them? And see if you're spending too much time on specific tasks, right? Sometimes we like, oh, I've got all this, laundry to do. And so you try to get it all knocked out in one day, but then it takes up your whole day or something like that. But this is just a way for you to kind of improve your time management. How are you spending your time? What can you wiggle around? What can you prioritize? What can you put off for later? And that's step 4, plan and prioritize your work. So after you analyze your time, you can create those better daily schedules. And then you'll know how long priority tasks are going to take, and it can help you plan effectively. Another thing is to identify common distractions. So I know for me, I'm like, well, I'm just going to take a break and I'm going to scroll through Facebook for, 15 minutes. And then before I know it, 15 minutes is 45 minutes or an hour and a half. And then I'm like, oh, good golly, what have I been doing all day, right? So that for me would be a common distraction. And so I would know if I'm going to take a 15-minute break, don't get sucked into the social media hole because it's going to last a lot longer than 15 minutes. But that's just an example from my life. And then also, when are you most productive during the day, right? Do you have more energy in the morning? Do you have more energy at night? Do you get maybe sluggish after you eat lunch? And so that might not be a good time to take on a lot of tasks. And so just kind of know where your energy levels are and try to prioritize tasks that take more energy during those times where you have more energy, okay? So some actions you may consider, setting aside time to maybe train somebody else on these tasks so that you can delegate them, right? If you have somebody in your space. Grouping similar tasks into one block of time. So say you've got, you have to run some errands, right? So you have to go pick up prescriptions, you have to run by the grocery, and maybe you have to go pick up some dry cleaning, right? So you just kind of give yourself a time to do all those outside tasks. Of course, that one's a pretty obvious no-brainer one, but that's the only example I could come up with off the top of my head. Next would be scheduling your most complex task for when you feel more productive, like we just said. So like in the morning before lunch, okay? Next one is we're going to talk about the Pareto principle. I think that's how you pronounce it, Pareto or Pareto. It's also known as the 80-20 rule. So this can really be beneficial for you as a caregiver. The principle suggests that roughly 80% of our outcome comes from 20% of our effort. Okay, so for caregivers, for you, this could mean that a small portion of your effort can lead to the majority of positive results in your duties. So, maybe you're putting 20% of your time into preparation, right? And then you're going to get 80% of your results because you prepared ahead of time. Okay. So here's some applications of this principle for you as a caregivers. So identify your key tasks. This is going to be a kind of a common theme throughout all of these slides. It's just really prioritizing, right? That's how we manage our time. So focus the 20% of tasks that have the greatest impact on the well-being of the person you're taking care of. So that could be medication management, really just communicating, right? What do you need? What can I do for you? Or specific types of support that can improve their quality of life, right? Because it's a lot easier to prioritize tasks when you have those conversations, if you can, with your loved one and say, what is a priority for you? What would you like me to get done first? That kind of thing. How can I make you more comfortable? That kind of stuff. Number two, prioritize self-care, right? I know that's easier said than done, but I really think that this is going to be a foundation that we build all of our other duties on, right? How are we filling our cup? How are we prioritizing our health and well-being? Okay. So we all know caregiving can be incredibly demanding, and it's very, very common for caregivers to neglect their own well-being, right? Neglect their own needs. Um, there's a um, there's a lot of studies out there that share the information that there are caregivers who pass before their recipients because they are so focused on their loved one's health and well-being that they completely neglect their own. And so they don't go to doctor's appointments. Maybe they're not taking their medication. They're not sleeping well. They're not eating well, right? They're not having any time for themselves. And so the stress is just becoming, more and more intense. And so that leads to a whole host of health problems. And so prioritizing self-care really is about you and your loved one, right? Because if you're not well and something happens to you, what's going to be their state, right? What are they going to do if you're gone? So prioritizing self-care is not an option when it comes to caregiving. Okay, you have to do it. So just recognize that a small amount of self-care can make a huge difference in maintaining your energy levels and your emotional health. Okay, that's very, very crucial. So prioritize activities that recharge your mental health and your physical health. Okay, whatever that looks like for you. Number three, leverage your support networks. Okay, so identify the 20% of your support network that provides most of the help. So that could be family members, friends, community resources, or even just paid respite. Engage with them regularly and delegate your tasks when possible and appropriate. Okay. Number four, again, we're going to talk about focusing on effective communication. So we need to spend time on the conversations that lead to a better understanding of your loved one's needs. Okay, of course, if you can. Listening to their preferences and concerns, that can lead to more effective caregiving, right? So you're kind of a more concentrated power punch of what you're providing for them rather than a slow trickle, right, of things that maybe they don't need, but you're doing anyway, right? And number five, assess those needs regularly. So regularly analyze what activities are yielding the best results. So that could involve adjusting your routines or changing your strategies based on what works best for your loved one receiving the care and for you. Okay. So by concentrating on the most impactful tasks and interactions, you can work more efficiently. And that will just lead to better outcomes for you and for the people you're taking care of, and also help in reducing that burnout and that stress that you feel if you don't prioritize yourself and you don't manage your time well, okay, which is an all too familiar feeling, I'm sure, for some of us. The next step, setting SMART goals. So some of you may know what these are, and this could be a review for you. But for those of you who don't, we're going to go ahead and teach you about that today. So setting SMART goals is really, really beneficial for you as a caregiver because it can help you manage your responsibilities and also ensure that you're taking care of yourself. Okay. So it's a package deal. You take care of them and yourself. Okay. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Okay. So a lot of times we think, well, I need to do this and I need to do that, but we don't set goals. We don't set time for these goals. We're not specific. It's just kind of this ambiguous idea like I need to do more, I need to do better, but we don't really have concrete goals. So setting SMART goals is really, really going to be an effective strategy for you to actually get things done that you want to get done in a timely fashion. So here's some examples. Specific. So instead of saying, I want to take better care of my health, right? It's a great goal, but it's very ambiguous, right? So you want to say, I will walk for 30 minutes every day. Okay, so you see how it's different. You're setting a specific goal, okay? Next is measurable. So make sure you can track your progress. So for instance, you can say, I will prepare healthy meals for myself at least 5 days a week. And this allows you to measure how many meals you're preparing, okay? Achievable. So setting realistic goals based on your current situation. So for example, instead of claiming, I'm going to attend a yoga class every day, that's not really achievable for most of us. So you might just say, I'll attend one yoga class a week. Okay. Or if you can't get out of the house once a week, I'll do an online something, right? I'll log in somewhere and do something online. Okay. And the next one is relevant. So choose goals that align with your overall responsibilities and self-care needs. Okay, it's a package deal. So for example, you can say, I will schedule 1 hour of quiet time for myself 3 times a week. So this is relevant because it acknowledges the need for personal time amidst your caregiving duties. Okay. And next, time bound. So lastly, you want to set a deadline to achieve your goals. So you could say, I will read 1 book per month to unwind. So that sets a clear time frame for your goal. And again, if you're keeping them realistic, it's not going to seem as overwhelming, because I know sometimes, at least for me, I can say, well, I'm going to do these things and I set goals for myself. They're not realistic. Okay. They're not in flow with my rhythm of life. And so then when I ultimately fail to meet those goals, then I feel kind of cruddy, right? I can't believe I missed this. I can't believe I failed at this. So make sure that they're realistic and that they are relevant, making sure that you have a time bound set for those parameters set for those. It'll make it a lot more easy for you to actually achieve those goals, okay? Because you don't want to add things that's going to make you feel worse later on, right? So some more goals, improving nutrition. Just say, I'm going to prepare, at least 3 meals at home, right? Instead of going out. And enhancing self-care. I'll set aside 15 minutes each day to meditate starting Monday for the next month. Okay, that's a small starting goal, right? That can be achieved, and it can help you build confidence, right? And you can always expand these later on. Connecting with support. I'll attend a support group meeting once a month to connect with other caregivers. Okay, it can just be something very simple like that. Reducing stress. I'll practice deep breathing exercises for 5 minutes every morning for the next 2 weeks. So you see how these are very specific, right? They're not ambiguous goals. It's not shaming yourself, or I should be meditating, or I should be eating well, right? You're setting those goals and they're achievable. So when you frame goals in this way, it's more effective and it's easier to manage your time and your responsibilities. And this is ultimately going to lead to that improved well-being, right? Not just for you, but for the people you're caring for, right? You want to make sure that you are in a healthy mindset when you're meeting the needs of another person, okay? So next tip is using the 4Ds method. So all of these tips can be used at any time, at any point. You might just find one or two that you like, and that's fine too. So I'm just going to go through these real quick. So having a daily to-do list can help you stay organized and productive, right? We all know that. But a too long to-do list can really be overwhelming, right? Especially in a world that is ever changing, right? You might not know what to expect from day to day, right? So the solution is to start each day by prioritizing your tasks and setting personal performance benchmarks, okay? So you can use the 4Ds to help you prioritize. So the 4Ds is do, defer, delegate, delete, okay? And I think this is going to be helpful for those of you who maybe had a lot going on prior to your caregiving and a lot of responsibilities prior to that. And then as caregiving became more and more of how you spent your time, some of these other tasks that you used to do, it's harder to kind of keep those in the itinerary, right? And so we might feel guilty for letting go of some of those responsibilities we had prior to caregiving because we still feel responsible for them. And so hopefully by using this method, you can say, there's just some things I can't do right now, so we're going to delete those, okay? So let's get back onto that. So do tasks that are important and urgent, right? There are some things that are just going to have to be your first priority, right? Getting mom fed, getting dad bathed, getting somebody, getting your loved one to the doctor, right? These are things that you have to do every day. You know that. So you're going to have those be the important, urgent tasks you're going to do first. Next is defer. So these are tasks that are important, but they're not urgent, right? So maybe it's, mom needs a shower, right? But she doesn't have to have one right first thing in the morning, right? She can have one later on at night. Unless, of course, she's more combative at night, then you don't want to do that, right? Well, whatever works for you, okay? So you can defer tasks that are important, but they're not urgent. Next is delegate. So these are tasks that are important, but they're not urgent, okay? So you can say like, hey, asking maybe a friend, right? I need milk. Could you swing by on your way out to grab some milk and bring me some, right? Just something very simple where it's important, but it's not urgent. You don't have to get it done right away. You can delegate that to somebody else. And the last one is delete. So these are tasks that are neither urgent or important, okay? So focus on completing the essential tasks working across these columns. And if you have time afterward, then you can do the things that maybe aren't important or aren't urgent, okay? So any tasks that aren't completed, they can just be transferred to the next day's list, right? But you've got all the important stuff done first, okay? And so, of course, it's always a good idea to experiment and find a system for prioritizing that works for you and what's going on in your life, okay? So these are just tips, these are frameworks, these are not hard and fast rules, whatever works for you, okay? The goal is to minimize your stress, not to increase it by adding all this other stuff, time management on top of it. If it's stressing you out, it doesn't work for you, then just move on to something else, okay? Next one, set limits. Okay, so we're going to talk about something called Parkinson's law. So the main premise of Parkinson's law is that the complexity of a task will tend to grow the more the time is allotted for the completion. Okay, so for example, if you give yourself a week to finish something that would normally only take you about an hour to complete, then that 1 hour task will grow into complexity and require more time and resources than were originally needed. Okay. This can also lead to procrastination. So leaving tasks until right before they're due. Okay. The problem with that is you might feel relieved initially that you have plenty of time to finish that project, but then you start to put it off as long as possible. Okay. And when you put things off as long as possible, they can become more daunting, right? They take up a lot of mental energy because you've always kind of got that queue open in your mind. I got to do this task. I got to do this task. I've got time to do it, but I'm still thinking about doing the task, right? Does that sound familiar to some of you? um, and that is going to become a source of stress and anxiety, right? I still have all these things I have to do, all these tasks I have to do. They're still running, in my mind. I still have this, mental load that I'm carrying around with me all the time. When if you just did the task, you'd feel that sense of relief, right? And you wouldn't have to stress out about it. You don't have to think about it. It doesn't have to be in your mental queue all week, right? You just get it done and then you don't have to worry about it anymore, okay? And sometimes you might wonder, hey, this only took me an hour. Why was I burdening myself for a whole week about getting this thing done, right? So it might not take a lot of physical energy to do the task, but that mental energy, that procrastination often creates is going to definitely weigh heavily on you. Okay. So the extra time that the task requires isn't really related to the task itself often. It's that mental stress caused by worrying about getting it done. Okay. So Parkinson's law is an axiom that states the work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. So that just means that things become harder to complete when more time is given to complete it. As the buildup of the task becomes stressful and daunting, right? I can use my laundry room as an example. It's just a pit of despair, constantly a never ending story, right? And I look and I think, oh, I need to get that laundry done. I need to get that laundry done. I need to get that laundry done, like all day, all day, all day. If I just did the laundry, then I would have all that mental energy back, right? I wouldn't be spending that mental energy out with this task that's just hanging over my head all day if I just did it, right? So if you can allocate, let's say 2 hours to a task rather than one, the amount of work needed to accomplish that task will just simply expand to fill that entire 2 hours, right? Well, I've got time to do it, so I'm going to kind of lollygag or I'm going to take little breaks or whatever, right? You kind of diddle and piddle around the house instead of just getting it done. But you can use your time audit if you created one to identify the activities that take longer than expected. And then you can start to set constraints on those specific tasks, right? And that can help improve your focus so that you can work more quickly and more efficiently, okay? So a good example is if you're reading or answering emails, right? So this can consume an entire day if you let it. But instead, you can try to set a limit of maybe an hour a day to do that task and then stick to it, right? So you can just assign a block of time to answer emails rather than answering them all throughout the day, right? Or on demand. So especially like if we get notifications on our phones, right? Every time we get an email, it bings. And so we think we have to address it right then. Okay, we don't. We can say in the morning, I'm going to give myself an hour to do emails and that's it. And anything that gets to me after that is just going to be answered in the morning, right? The next day. And again, it's just really about conserving that mental energy so you're not so mentally fatigued and you're not so consumed with keeping those tabs open in your mind, so to speak, right? You're just getting it done, you clear it from your queue and you can move on, okay? So if you still find yourself going beyond those time limits that you have set for yourself, Examine your workflow, right? Determine if you need to assign more time to those tasks in the future. So say you give yourself an hour to do your emails, but it often takes you an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours, depending on what you've got going on. So you can say, okay, well, that hour wasn't enough, and that's okay. I'll just, adjust my time. Okay. But the goal is to just get it kind of cleared out of that mental queue so that you can focus on other things and prioritize other things like self-care, right? Or having fun. All right, next one, manage your expectations. And I think this is a great, great tip. I think it's very practical, but I think it's often overlooked, okay? Especially again, if your caregiving duties increase over time, right? Like a lot of you are with people who have diseases or illnesses that get worse, right? Throughout the span of their time. You're not going to be able to do all the things that you could have done in the beginning, right? Things are going to change, and you have to be okay with that, managing those expectations. So having realistic expectations of what you can achieve in a day or in a week. So for example, if you have 18 tasks that you want to get done in one day, how many of them do you really think you're going to accomplish, right? Or how many do you genuinely need to accomplish, right? Are you prioritizing the right ones? So of course, no matter how well you plan, unexpected tasks will always crop up during the day, right? Especially if there's like an emergency that happens, right? Maybe somebody falls, or maybe somebody chokes, or whatever the case may be, right? You're going to have to obviously have time in your schedule to manage those unexpected things. So if you just take that perspective, right? You've got to weave in a little wiggle room for these inevitable, unexpected things that happen. Okay. So if you bog your day down with all these tasks that have to be done, and then an emergency crops up, or maybe your loved one isn't being as cooperative today as they were yesterday, so things are taking a little bit longer, that's just going to exponentially increase your stress, right? Because it's like, oh, I really didn't have time for this, and now I'm even more late than I thought I was going to be, right? Or that kind of, and then you start to get frustrated, and then you start to maybe get a little angry, or whatever the case, right? So just allowing yourself some extra time, give yourself some breathing room throughout your day, managing your expectations, right, of what you can do and what you can't do. That's going to really help with your stress levels, right? And it's really going to help with making this sustainable for you. Okay. So let's see. So time management skills will ensure that you can plan for and handle these unexpected things with less stress and get back on track faster. Okay. So one time management tip, or one way that this was useful for me, if I knew it was going to take me 30 minutes to get from my house to like the playground, right, with my kids, it takes me 30 minutes. I will always allocate an hour of travel time, because I know I will inevitably be late leaving out of that door, right? So if I only give myself 30 minutes to get from A to B, and I'm not factoring in the fact that I've got a bunch of little kids that maybe aren't cooperating and it's going to take me longer, then I'm going to get stressed when I'm late or when I'm behind, right? But knowing it's going to take me half hour to get there, but I give myself an hour to do it, guess what? If it gets a little late, if time gets a little squirrely, it's fine, right? So I can respond better, less stressed, less burnt out, because I've allocated that extra time, okay? So that's why managing your expectations is really, really important. Next is exploring technologies that can save time. So technology has advanced a lot over the last decade, or heck, even the last 5 years, right? And there's many software programs for computers or apps for your smartphones that can be used to save time. And it might feel a little intimidating at first, but once you start using them, you realize how user-friendly a lot of these things are and how much time they can really save you. So the first one, patient portals. So most healthcare providers do offer access to a patient portal to the patients and their care partners, okay? So they can save you time for activities that might require multiple phone calls to the doctor's office. So for instance, many portals have options where you can request prescription refills, right? Or ask questions about care plans, and you don't have to wait on hold, and you don't have to worry that people aren't going to return your phone calls or whatever. Or if they do, it's at a time that you can't take it, right? So using those patient portals is a great way for you to just effectively get what you need to get done within that time. You don't have to wait on anybody else, and then you can just move on with your day. excuse me. The next one is pharmacy apps. So many mainstream pharmacies like Walgreens, CVS, or even Costco, they offer those smartphone apps that you can review lists of your prescriptions, you can refill them, you can receive a notice when it's ready to pick up so you don't waste your time calling them or driving down there and it's not ready, right? Using those apps can be very helpful. I don't have a CVS app, but I do have automatic refills set up with CVS Pharmacy, and they'll often just send me a text, right? So I don't even have to download anything onto my phone. They'll just say, hey, your prescription's ready for pickup, get it by Monday, right? And it makes it a lot easier for me because, again, I'm not wasting time trying to figure out when are my prescriptions ready. I already know, okay? Next, delivery apps. So this can be a great resource for saving time. Where you can get things delivered, right? Of course, before the pandemic, before COVID-19, this was a thing, but after that, it almost became like a lifeline for a lot of people, right? So a lot of places are offering delivery services like grocery stores. You can go through Shipt or Instacart and deliver those grocery stores for you so you don't have to worry about driving down there and going through the whole hustle and bustle of the grocery store. And also many restaurants have made it very easy to order food and get it delivered so that you don't have to worry about shopping or cooking on those days where you just don't have the time. Next, digital calendars. So a lot of our smartphones already come with a digital calendar on there, but you can always use things like a Google Calendar or something like that if you don't want to use your phone app, and that's fine. And a good thing about a Google Calendar is you can share it with other people. So if you have people in your network where you know they need to they're that you're delegating tasks to, you can just share that calendar and say, hey, pick up for mom's prescriptions this Tuesday, or hey, you know, they're having a respite night on Friday, you want to go out and get some coffee or something, right? So there's a lot of technologies that you can use to help you manage your time and your tasks. Of course, there's a learning curve to anything that you want to pick up that's new to you, but it's not impossible, and it's definitely can be helpful, okay? And last but not least, okay, scheduling time for well-being. Okay, you know this is my favorite topic. How are you caring for yourself? How are you filling your cup? How are you finding well-being and peace in your day to day? So your health might not seem like an obvious time management tip, but I would argue it's probably one of the most important ones. So we know life as a caregiver can be incredibly hectic, right? And it's very, very easy to neglect your needs, like we talked about earlier. But that's going to lead you to burnout, right? And that's the whole goal of managing your time, right? Is so that you are not getting to that point where you're so stressed and you're so burned out that you just can't anymore. Okay. So scheduling time for your own well-being is crucial. And it does get lost when you take care of other people, but it doesn't have to. Okay. No one can be productive when you're physically, mentally, emotionally depleted, right? Where are you going to get the strength to do what you need to do if you're completely tapped out, right? So you can only provide that quality care for your loved one if you're healthy, right? And that doesn't just mean physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, mental health, right? Overall wellness. So a good tip, schedule a break every 90 minutes if you can, right? That'll help you maintain focus. It'll help you become more productive throughout the day, right? Because you're not just going from one task to the next, right? You're giving yourself that time. And this is going to boost your energy levels, and that is going to decrease your risk of burnout. Okay. So making time to eat, right? Making time to exercise, making time to make a personal phone call that's just for fun to catch up, right? Or even just a hobby, right? Anything that you can do to step away from your duties for a little bit. So prioritizing regular breaks is essential. And I think also if we kind of add it into our schedule, right, as something that we have to do, it's a priority for us, that might alleviate some of the guilt we feel when we take a break, right? Sometimes you feel like, well, I can't sit down and take a break because there's all these things I still need to do. Yes. And they'll still be there in 15 minutes. Sit down and rest your feet. Sit down and have a cup of tea. Sit down and, eat a meal. Okay. These are not frivolous things. These are essentials. Okay. So it's okay to take time and prioritize yourself. So to take great care of others, which you are all doing very well, you have to take care of yourself. Okay. Great care of yourself. So why? Well, it reduces stress, right? Self-care helps you manage your stress levels. Think of it this way. our nervous system, right? That's our hub of stress, right? We respond to stressful things with our nervous system. So self-care is really just giving that nervous system time to adjust, to reset, to recalibrate, right? So you're not just humping or heaping things on top of that stress, right? You got maybe some stress and then you bring it down, decompress. Then it kind of builds up again and then bring it down. Okay. So you're not just always at like meltdown mode, right? You're not always at like max capacity all the time. Okay. So taking time for yourself allows you to recharge. That's going to improve your mental health and that's going to give you a greater sense of well-being. Okay. It helps you to enhance your physical health. So engaging in self-care activities like regular exercise, even just stretching in the morning, right? Wiggling your toes, moving your joints around. Okay, that's exercise. That's self-care. Eating as healthy as you can. Okay, now I will never tell you to not eat junk food because I eat junk food every day. Okay, but try to sprinkle in some good stuff, right? Some nutrition, something that's going to really give you the energy that you need to make it through the day. Okay. It doesn't have to be, some crazy, bad diet or something like that. Just remind yourself, hey, drink some water, girl. Have a piece of fruit, right? It's not the end of the world. Trying to get adequate sleep, that's self-care, right? You are managing your meat suit, right? You have to take care of it. And that's going to attribute to or contribute to better physical health, right? And we all know some of these tasks that we do are physically taxing, right? And so maintaining our physical health is very important. Maintaining your physical health allows you to maintain your stamina and your overall health while you care for other people, okay? It can improve your emotional resilience, which is a huge factor, especially when you are taking care of somebody who requires a lot of emotional labor from you, right? So meditation, mindfulness, pursuing hobbies, right? What do you enjoy? Where is your delight? Okay. Taking time for that, that's going to enhance your emotional resilience. Okay. So when stress comes, you are not falling apart, right? So caregivers who take time for yourself are better equipped to handle the ups and downs of caregiving. Okay. So I hope you're seeing that this isn't just a maybe I should, or I might one day. This is crucial. This is essential. This is worth prioritizing. Okay. And finally, it can help with stronger relationships. So when you prioritize self-care, you're improving the interactions with your loved ones, right? When you feel balanced and nurtured, you're more likely to communicate effectively, provide compassionate care, right? You can have compassion fatigue where you're tired of caring, right? And that's going to benefit both you and the loved one that you're caring for. Okay. Now we don't have to be Mary Poppins. We don't have to, come out and just be, full of energy and surprises and magical things that makes everything better for everybody else. I'm not saying that. Just be realistic, right? How often are you caring for yourself? How much time are you allotting for self-care? Give it a shot, right? Maybe set a SMART goal. Just say for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to prioritize self-care in the morning and see how that makes you feel, right? If you don't notice a change and you just want to keep barreling through the way you're doing, fine, that works. But I would argue that it's probable that you're going to realize that there's a lot of positive impacts that prioritizing your self-care has for you. And hopefully that'll encourage you to continue to prioritize that self-care. So here is my contact information. Okay, we've got our website, alabamarespite.org. This is where you can find this recording later on and also all the other recordings from my previous trainings. You can also apply for our respite program, our respite reimbursement program, if you have yet to do so. And that can help you pay for respite if you need those breaks, which I know you do. My email address, jstang@ucphuntsville.org. You can use this email or the phone number to call me if you want to schedule a care chat, right? If you just need somebody to talk to, if you just need some support in that way, I can always make myself available. If you shoot me an email or call me on a Wednesday and I don't get back to you, it's just because I'm not working that day and I'm not ignoring you, I promise. And I'll get back to you when I get back to my office, okay? All right, so let me go ahead and stop my share.